Hi, welcome to Sportsy, Let's Talk Sports. We have spoken to so many people till now, and we always get a different perspective about the sports industry or the challenges that they have taken or the career that they have had. Today, we have a dear friend with us on a show who is a computer science graduate from Rochester, New York, worked in New York for some time, and joined a cola giant Pepsi, came to India and worked on the whole cola war, with Pepsi on doing the cola war. From there, he picked up another industry, which is insurance, and worked with Allianz to work on the partnership with Bajaj before it became Bajaj Allianz. Worked with HDFC, and then in 2010, there was a calling for him from the sports industry. He started Dynamic Sports. Today, we have with us Ashish Shah, the CEO founder of Dynamic Sports, who has been ex-president of Chennaiyin FC, Delhi Dynamos, and Odisha FC. At the same time, he has been handling some of the eminent properties in India, which is the high altitude race in Ladakh, as well as India's only vineyard marathon in Sula, Nasik. Please welcome Ashish Shah. Thank you for watching, thank you for liking, and thank you for sharing. But please do subscribe on our channel Sportsy Says and help us spread the word about Sportsy. Let's talk sports. Please follow Sportsy Says on across all social media platforms and please do subscribe on Sportsy Says. Thank you.
Hi Ashish, welcome to Sportsy. Let's talk sports. It's amazing to have you on a platform. We have spoken to almost multiple athletes and multiple administrators, but getting somebody like you who has complete varied experience, a computer science graduate from Rochester, New York, to working with the cola giants like Pepsi, to insurance giant like Bajaj Allianz, and from there to getting into the sports, having one of your unique properties under your own company. But before we come to that, it is a journey of ISL with Chennaiyin FC, Delhi Dynamos, and the brand name change and the city change to Odisha FC. So I think I'm looking forward to this amazing chat with you over next 25-30 minutes, and I'm sure the viewers are going to love it. So it's amazing to have you here.
Thank you so much, sir. It's my pleasure to be here. I have been watching your episodes, and they have been very interesting, fun, and very informative. So I hope I live up to the standards set by people before. But really look forward to this chat. Thank you.
You got to be part of the Chennaiyin FC, which is one of the most glamorous team. Honestly speaking, when the whole started with Abhishek, Mahi, and Vita Dani coming into picture, Mataraji coming to you guys, and it was one of the most glamorous thing. So, what was the biggest moment that you had, and how did you actually build? 2015 is when you were there, you won. So I'm sure that is one of the glorious moment that you had. But how did the whole thing happen for Chennaiyin FC? Because I have other questions followed to that, which is like your Delhi Dynamos to Odisha FC. But let's start with Chennaiyin FC, which is the managing the Indian football.
No, thank you for asking, actually, because Chennaiyin FC will always remain very dear to me, because it was my first foray in the world of football. So in a dynamic sports, we were looking at doing something in football. So it's always been about doing something, right? So we were like,
yes,
two crazy guys, let's do something in football, grassroots football, all that. And then ISL came about, and just I got this great opportunity to build Chennaiyin FC. As you may remember, we were the last franchise of the block.
yes.
So we got very little time to kind of set up in the first season. But then, as you see in hindsight, sometimes when you're under pressure and time pressure and, things just kind of, you do, right? So you execute and things happen. So yeah, first and foremost, very rightly, as you said, great set of owners, right? I mean, that's very, very important. So having somebody like Mrs. Vita Dani, who is very passionate about sports herself, it's not only football, right? She's also got
Table
tennis, yeah, right? So, and giving the right kind of empowerment to not only myself but to the team to kind of go and deliver was a great help to us, right? So that's number one. Somebody like Abhishek Bachchan, great. Of course, his passion is something you see. I mean, you see on TV, you see on season. But somebody who really understands the sport of football and the business of football. So having him as a kind of a guide overseeing what we were doing, getting involved in some of the conversations with the coach, with the players, coming and motivating people. And in the matches, of course, like I said, everyone sees that. But what happened behind the scenes, the kind of support he provided with the sponsor engagement, it was like a blanket thing. Like, go and commit. Don't waste your time. So it was great having him. And of course, Dhoni, of course, he has his pressures of other, commitment, but his commitment towards the club in terms of commercials, in terms of, and I think Hiren mentioned this in your last discussion, right? About him showing up for the lunches. I mean, just imagine, somebody like Mahi coming, speaking to the young Indian players, whether it's football or any sport. Just imagine the inspiration that, the learning that you can get as a youngster. So it was great to have these owners. And for me, coming from a background where I've never dealt with celebrities, this was again a steep learning curve. And to have these kind of celebrities who didn't have any airs about them, who were very open to sitting down, discussing things, approachable, was a great opportunity. And hence, something I will always cherish. And, I've learned a lot. In terms of the club, yes, we got a very short time, but, we set up a very nice team. In hindsight, of course, we were lucky, but we got very good colleagues who were, all kind of geared up for, again, another startup environment. We worked 24/7, whether it was dealing with the league, whether it's the operations, whether it's the commercial side, whether it's the technical side. Again, dealing with somebody like Marco Materazzi, right? I mean, World Cup winner, coming in for the first time. I remember, he came into Bangalore airport because our pre-season we had to do in Bangalore. We had no ground in Chennai. So, going there to receive him, I had heartbeat, palpitations. And, but again, once you meet him, his philosophy, the way he dealt with us, with the players, great learning for me. And we all did it together. And before we knew it, the ISL was there. And luckily for us, the team performed well in season 1. And then, going forward, I think one of the things that really worked for us was that the first 3 seasons we had stability. And what I mean by stability is the owners were the same, the management was the same, and the coach was the same. And then, we had Ilano, Mendoza, JJ. Right. Some of the key kind of the stars of the team remained consistent for the 3 seasons. Exactly. And then, of course, having won the league in the second season was icing on the cake. But I think as a process, that was something which was great to have. What did Chennaiyin stand for? And then the fans started connecting with, all these aspects of the club. And then by season 2, slowly the grassroots came about and we started moving out into the whole of the state and not only Chennai. And, the traction happened and we started getting, for season 1 and 2, actually, we had 18 to 20,000 people coming into the stadium. Yes. And now we're talking about, average 15 to 18 is kind of that sweet spot in Indian football. And we started having that in a place where we were told is not a football place traditionally, right? So having all this was really, a great achievement. We did decently well also in terms of our sponsors, had some long-term partners who came out as a result of all this. So, excellent.
Nice. Believe me, I was there when the Chennai and FC's deals were happening, when they came last week, franchisee to come in and all those things, and seen the journey, and it's something feels very close to, very connected, because it came out as a family environment, and the whole thing. It was the culture, and you partly answered one of my next question, which is actually towards how it actually helped the culture in the Chennai, because Chennai is also known for football. It is mainly on the athletics and the cricket, but it is also known for football. But I think the CFC actually pushed that thing up, the envelope ahead. Yes. on the football. And then what we see is like, but did you get, because of Chennai and FC, did you get a lot of eyeballs in the grassroots side as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think, one thing is where, the talent exists in all parts of India. I'm convinced of. So Chennai, of course, Tamil Nadu has great talent. And, now you've seen them coming through the system. And for that, you have to have a pyramid where you have to have a bottoms up approach. Now, ISL in the first few seasons, when we were doing this, obviously was a top down approach for right reasons at that time. So you needed those eyeballs, you needed that, kind of the oomph around the league for people to get attracted, saying, what is this, and that definitely helped. But yeah, that could not have sustained over, let's say maybe the initial year or so. Mm-hmm. So grassroots one as a mandate from the league. It was great that they mandated it, because in the first couple of seasons, it would have been very easy for football clubs to say, I have 100 things to do, right now, and I just can't focus on this. But there was a mandate, so we had to do it, and that was great. And then now it's taken off, and now it's, most clubs believe that that's kind of the key to your success, right? So grassroots is something which took off in Chennai in real earnest after season one. I must be honest, first season we could not devote the energy towards that, but after the end of season one, by the time season two started, it had already taken off. We had started setting up partnerships with schools, a few initial soccer schools, and then then kind of it took off. I remember going to various places in Tamil Nadu also, and finding out, much to our delight, that how clued on the youngsters were on not only global football but on ISL. People knew Marco, and they knew JJ, and they knew this. So it was a great eye opener for us. And then to set up the elite part of the youth system, to provide them with the right kind of infrastructure, very important. In the beginning, it's easy to put up a team of 18, 22, 25, but what's the support do you give them in terms of coaching, in terms of medical, in terms of even psychological inputs, because it's not only about playing, it's about learning to grow as an individual. And end of the day, these are kids. What happens to their education? How important is education? It is important, but I'm saying, how important is education while you're pursuing a career as a professional? Give them the right kind of role models, then integrate them with the first team. Some of the key, we didn't have a reserve team right away, but pick up some of the key players, make them available to Marco for some trainings, or get somebody like Ilano, or somebody who could speak with them. So all that started happening, and that really helped the culture of football to kind of then grow. We, of course, on the other side, were fortunate to have a very passionate fan club, which got set up very quickly. So and now they've obviously grown much more. And
both of them, Luz and the Machans, both are like
both of them, and they travel to other locations. And some of the matches we saw in Bangalore, I was amazed to see the Chennai stand. So to have that, and then to work very closely with them in terms of the messaging, communication, involve them in some part of the club, make them feel that this is part of it's their club. And then going out to beyond the fan club, because fan club typically are your football followers. Now, how do you go to people who don't necessarily follow football? In Chennai, that kind of happened, because people are very passionate about the concept of Chennai, a concept of Tamil Nadu, right? So once we started going out, started talking to people in schools, colleges, we started seeing families coming in. We started seeing people who are not typically football lovers coming in, starting following the club. So yes, I would like to think that we as Chennaiyin FC played a large role in kind of enhancing the football culture in the state, and I kind of played a small role in that too. So been very happy with that.
Excellent, and that shows, right? Abhishek is known for a Chelsea sponsor. Mahi's associated with Chennai. He calls it Chennai is more home to him than Ranchi now. So because of CSK and Chennai FC all together. But yeah, it's a great journey there. But from there, from southmost to the north, where the community building has always been a challenge. Delhi has amazing talent, but never were successful in any of the sports at that level. Because probably I think it's about the whole community building and all those things. There are some cultural challenges or some other thing. So how was that journey for you to head Delhi Dynamos before actually it moved to Odisha?
Like we said earlier, Sid, you have to be a little crazy in this part of business, right? So when the opportunity came up to go to Delhi, all these questions were on my mind, saying, A, most difficult macro environment, like you rightly described. B, micro environment also, because Delhi Dynamos, we knew, being as part of ISL, was kind of had the maximum amount of loss, for example, in terms of a franchise club, the highest franchise fee. There were a lot of challenges even from the business side of it.
Yes.
So having all that, and the third factor, me being a hardcore Bombaya, Delhi has always been a no-no. So in my close family and friend circle, that became another crazy factor, that this guy actually wants to go and live in Delhi. So anyway, so apart from all that, I took the plunge again because I saw the challenge there. And I knew, if one can work through that challenge, one can work through, any challenge. And like you rightly said, in any sport in India. So I took it up and, great experience in Delhi. And then, we'll talk about the journey after that. So Delhi, yes, a lot of talent over there. It's a very, very challenging environment to run a football club on multiple reasons. One, there are a lot of other avenues of entertainment and sports, not only sports, but a lot of other avenues of entertainment available in Delhi. So
Yes.
people are not necessarily, football is not necessarily your kind of the first thing that they would look at. So that's kind of a challenge. Number two, we played through the months of winter. Having a 7:30 or 8 p.m. kickoff is difficult. It's difficult to sit in those stands, especially for kids with the cold weather. For women, the safety is an issue. You finish
Yeah.
at 10, 10:30, you want to go home after that. Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium, while being a great infrastructure, not necessarily in the best
Yeah.
location.
Location.
The crowd should kind of come and disperse after the game. You had all these challenges, and then of course the challenges of getting people into the stadium. Even when we had some matches against Northeast, some of our initial matches, when we did a little campaign when Bengaluru came with Chetri being a Delhi boy, about 15 to 20,000 people coming, the stadium still looked empty
Yeah.
because the capacity is so huge. So, despite what you do to show on camera that it's full, when you're in the stadium, you just don't get the vibe, and everyone feels it. The players feel it, the crowd feels it. So these were some of the challenges. But on the community side, I must say I had a very, very pleasant surprise.
Oh,
There
nice.
are
Okay.
there are pockets. There are pockets like CR Park, for example, which are heavy Bengali population.
Mhm.
There are pockets where you have a lot of you have a lot of African students and community in Delhi. You have lots of embassies in Delhi, and I'm talking about these communities because these are all communities where football is sport number one, not cricket.
Yes. Sir.
And something, for example, I really like to credit our owner at Delhi, who pushed me. He said that, "Yeah, we know all the challenges. Yeah, we know that it's not working, but why don't we do something different? Why don't you go and invite all the embassies to come to our games?" And I was like, okay, and we started trying, and nobody would respond. Now, embassies typically, you call and saying you're Delhi Dynamos, who are you? I mean, you're not. No one's going to kind of meet you. But we worked hard. We created a database, and we were at it, and it took off. And it took off to such a level that we had a couple of very interesting phenomena. One of our matches, I remember we had 42 diplomats.
Oh,
So
wow.
in our owner's lounge, we had like a mini UN. And these were all our guests who were now there for their third or fourth match. But this match, they all kind of came together. Maybe it was the last match of the season, I don't remember. But they were all there supporting Delhi Dynamos. And it became quite an event for us. The second very interesting one we had one match. We had a request from the American ambassador and the Venezuelan ambassador, and this is during the peak of their diplomatic tiff. And we had to kind of, we became like a sports diplomacy kind of just something you only talk about in case studies and management school, but I actually got to breathe and live that. So Delhi had some very interesting things to offer. Even the government, while one always likes to complain about the apathy and the lack of involvement by government, but when you understand their challenges and when you understand how some of the processes work, whether it's sports authority, whether it's the government sports department, whether it's at the Delhi level, government level, we could actually work closely with them and do things at community level. We launched a women's league, for example, a girls league actually, sorry. We could get some of the athletes from other sports to start coming into our games. We started interacting with them in certain things. So we did all this. What happened at the end was two things. One is, the big challenge in terms of the loss that the club was making. At, let's say, an X, we were able to make it to a half. So that I would say was a success, right? So while the loss reduced by 100%, it was still quite high in terms of the sustainability of the club. So that became kind of the key issue as to, yes, we are doing all this. The rate at which the community involvement and the benefits of that are coming are going to take a long time for the club to actually become sustainable, and no owner would be able to kind of justify this. We started having discussions with foreign clubs, with consultants, as you know, what are some of the kind of loss ratios in the industry? And they also told us that what you're seeing in Delhi is even high by some of the European standards, right? So, so we studied the Greek model, for example. We didn't want to look at, UK, Spain. I mean, it's not apple to apple. But we started looking at some of the other models, and the owners from there, whom our owners knew, they actually started talking to us and said, this is something not really sustainable. And that is where, things started kind of, thoughts started emerging in terms of, whether Delhi can sustain an ISL club at this stage. I'm sure Delhi can at some stage in the Indian football ecosystem's, growth. But at that stage, we kind of hit a wall. As you know, how do we make it a sustainable club? So.
And that's where one of the interesting case studies of Indian football came in, where the brand, the city, and everything had to be shifted and changed. Owners were the same, the team was almost the same, but the location was 1,000 kilometers away. And interestingly, the India's first known sports state, which is Odisha, and getting your team to Odisha. What were the typical challenges because as you said, right, you are always look for the chaotic situations, and you have found the solutions in that. So I'm sure that shifting the whole base, shifting the name, branding, loyalties, there's so many different challenges that probably we can speak for 3 hours, but we'll not get covered. But just some of the high level gist that you say that, okay, what it takes to change the brand, change the city, and still maintain the loyalty and all those factors.
Yeah, extremely interesting case study, I must say, in hindsight. So, the biggest challenge was that, when you move a city, you're letting go of the brand that you created, the fan base that you created, the sponsors, the communication that you've done so far in the community, right? So that was the most challenging part. We had a very passionate group of supporters, even in Delhi, right? Yes. So the Delhi Ultras were, extremely passionate about football and about the club. So, the owners, when they had bought into Delhi Dynamos, they had bought with the idea that they wanted to be in Delhi. So even for them, this was an extremely difficult situation. So first difficulty was that, to kind of agree internally and then go out to external stakeholders that we want to move. So that was kind of the first challenge that we had to overtake. After that, yes, it was like creating a completely brand new club, branding, starting with, and here it was a little bit even more complex because we were very closely working with the Odisha government.
Yes.
So we had to make sure that then they became a very important stakeholder in the club. So even the things like the naming, the colors, the jerseys, we had to make sure that we carry them along. So, that became, and for me, again, a great learning experience to deal with these gentlemen in the sports department in Odisha. It's just a great, they are definitely the sporting capital in India.
Yeah.
So that became kind of the one exercise. The second was on the logistics and operations side. How do you get everybody to move? Now there are players and coaches who have their families. Are we going to put them in a hotel? Then which hotels? Are we going to have apartments? Then which apartments? Training ground is X kilometers distance. Can they go there every day? Now, luckily for us, the Kalinga Stadium infrastructure is awesome. Yeah. So we had a gym there, we had a swimming pool there, we had the training center, everything in one place. But we had to make sure that they could come there, every day. They could get their meals, everything. So, getting all that set up was the challenge. And then the main challenge is, can we host a game? We signed the MOU with the government only in October or, end September. Actually, just a few days ago, you may have seen Odisha announced, the anniversary of signing the MOU. So, that's when we were kind of still struggling with, will the ground be ready? And there were these floods, the hurricanes, right? So there was damage to the stadium. So we had to work on the operation level to get all that fixed. The pitch had to be redone. And then Murphy's Law always hits. It always hits. So when we thought we had everything under control, we got the news that the pitch is not going to be ready till December. And there was no way we could host our home games. So our first 3 home games had to be, we had to find a solution. So then, as now you all know, we had to move to Pune, and this happened overnight. I mean, I had to quickly look at, various options. There was Ahmedabad, there was Pune, there was others, Mumbai, New Mumbai. So we looked at all those, and quickly in 2 days, I had to visit all of them, do a deal, sign a MOU with Pune, tell the team, oh, sorry, cancel your trip. Half of them had showed up in Bhubaneswar, half were in Delhi packing. show up in Pune. People just didn't understand what I was telling them. I said, just come here and I'll explain. And, people had to show up, our vendors, partners, everyone had to drop what they were doing in Bhubaneswar, show up in Pune. That was another big challenge. One is, getting the stadium ready, I would say was a lesser of a challenge. That's something a professional just do it. The bigger challenge is now you're setting up Odisha FC in Pune. So now who the hell is going to come and see this match? So the whole idea of moving from Delhi was to get fan engagement, was to get sponsors, was to get people, players to think that yes, now we have a great environment to play. Now we are in a worse situation. So now Balewadi, of course, you know all the challenges. Hardcore.
In fact, I can see it from where I'm sitting. I can see all the four light towers.
Correct. So you're a FC Pune City fan. You're a boy, Pune boy. So you know what are some of the challenges in Pune. So we worked through that. We conducted 3 matches, and surprisingly, we found the Odia community in Pune. And so when there are challenges, you find solutions. So we found them. We found a couple of management institutes which are nearby. They started coming. So we obviously didn't have the kind of crowd we would want, but Balewadi being a small stadium, we were able to generate a little bit of excitement. Coach was happy, players were happy. We performed all right. We lost one, won one, we drew one. The game that we lost, we could have drawn. So it was a good beginning. And then we made the final shift to Bhubaneswar, where everything kind of came together. The sponsors came about, the fans showed up in the match, the government was supportive. We solved the operational issues, and then we had a great season. So yeah.
And as everybody said, and rest is the history. After all the small battles you won, you finally won the war and started the club where you're supposed to win. And believe me, when you're saying this, it's like being in Pune. We believe in Atithi Devo Bhava. Pune has been host to Chennai, CSK, Bangalore, Odisha. So it is.
But also Chennai, and I think you remember Chennai FC also. Yes.
Chennai and FC also. So there are 4 different teams who has played in Pune, and making Pune a home ground. So it's like I think. But at the unfortunate part, at all the time is like still Pune does not have, other than Puneri Paltan. It's nothing is there as a sustainable thing. We need something in cricket. We need something in football. Phenomenal talent in football here.
Yes, and it's one of those challenges I just don't understand. You have such a vibrant city and a demographic that loves sports.
Yes.
Why doesn't a sports franchise work there? And there are corporates. It's the Mumbai-Pune commercial belt. Yes. I mean, you look at every aspect, it ticks the box.
Believe me, and you're coming from working, managing 3 different clubs, 2 with the name change, but 1 separate. So it's like different entities, and you're saying this. So imagine a sports enthusiast, sports commercial person in me. It's like, and looking at the stadium, and I know there is no home game happening for anybody. It is really painful, but hopefully the things will be resolved. So. Coming to the second, probably last section of our chat for today. I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to call you again because there's a lot to discuss. But just moving from football, if you haven't had a magic wand, what is that one thing you would like to change about Indian football?
Great question. I think, it's very easy to say if I had a magic wand, I would want India to be really performing up there in the World Cup. But I'm going to make it a little bit different. I'm saying, if I had a magic wand today, I would want a very high level of quantity and quality of competitions available in football at all age levels. So whether starting at a very amateur level for a kid, a boy or a girl, to a teenager, to a elite youth, to our main team, to the Indian team, to even in ISL, the professionals need to play many more sports. So if I have a magic wand, I would do that. And one example I would like to give is, let's say about Australia. The kind of, people get involved in playing sport, not only football, is because everyone is playing and there's always an opportunity. You have, let's say if you're just into fitness, there's a park run in your neighborhood park every Sunday. So you just have to show up there and you run. And, it's a competition. I define it as a competition. It doesn't have to be the elite sport, right? So when you do this, you're going to have more and more people, playing active, healthy, which is going to allow you to create that talent. The talent's going to get spotted. Your whole culture changes. We talk about this whole thing about how can India become a footballing nation or a sporting nation. I think what is required is this, high level of participation and competition. I think if I had a magic wand, I would like to move ahead, in time and say, okay, let's create that and let's kickstart grassroots football. And I think everything else will fall into place.
And I think you just hit the nail on the head with the whole thing. Yes, we want India to be playing the World Cup and all those things, but it's not going to, that's not going to make a lot of difference. People say that 83 made a change for Indian cricket, but cricket was growing before that. And
Yes.
then the era changed and the media played a big role in the whole
That's
process.
right. Correct.
But the more and more people coming at a grassroots level and getting the opportunity to represent somewhere, because
Yes.
I know there are, I myself have a small club in Pune, which I run, Rising Pune FC,
Yes.
and we have around 100 kids. But what kind of opportunity I can give? I need to give the opportunity. One of the best thing about the whole ISL is the Reliance Foundation having the Young Champ program, and they started themselves before and making sure that everybody else follows that. I think it's a great journey and it has started. And but as you
Yes.
said, right, the magic wand is something we want, the Harry Potter thing, right? It
Yeah.
has to happen, it has to work out, and
Yes.
the abracadabra is something that we need. And you also touched upon the topic of how India can become a sporting nation. That was my second last question, but you actually spoke about it. Make it grassroots level, it can happen. I think the infrastructure is what we are just cribbing about. It can resolve.
It can. And my, sorry to jump in, but my very positive experiences with the authorities. I used to be always a pessimist when it came to the government, but in Odisha, of course, awesome.
It's
But even in Delhi, I think you need to figure out a way to work with them, and there are people in the system who want to make a change. So understand who they are, what are their challenges, work with them, and I think infra will fall into place. And very very good examples of places like Chile and some other countries in Africa where the infrastructure is probably same or worse than India, but they're performing better than us. So it can't be just infra, right? It's this whole mindset. It's about getting kids to play. And unfortunately, COVID has made situation worse. We've gone back. I see so many kids in my locality. They're sitting at home. I'm the one outside running, and they're sitting at home. And I need that magic wand.
I think exactly. And so I think the sports and fitness can take us out of all this dirt of the current situation of COVID. And I think it's just logical pause that has come in. I think it is not a full stop, and people have
Yes.
to look at the whole mental side of it. So when we're looking at the now mental side of it, there are so many people who are aspirant of the sports industry. And as you know, I manage Simba School of Sports Sciences. We both are involved with, and I'm waiting for you to come here. And we both are involved with GISB and other institutes
Yes.
across India where we go and speak and meet so many people who reach
Sure.
out to us. What is your message to those people who are aspirant of this industry and they started having some doubt because of the current pause that we are talking about? So it's a mindset thing. So what is your message to them from both, from the future, current, and the mindset?
Sure. No, this is a excellent topic which one gets to discuss all the time. I think the first thing, and from my own experience, I can say, sports ecosystem in India, we are at a very initial stage. So there is no way but up, right? So it is going to grow. It is going to grow manifold, and it doesn't matter which sport. So that's number one at the macro level. Number two, I'm a firm believer in the hard work and passion, right? So in sports industry, that's even more relevant. So as long as you are passionate and you are willing to put in that extra slog, you can have whatever title, you can call yourself the director, general manager, CEO. But if you are willing to go and serve that cup of tea to your guest, that's the attitude that you want from every person. If you have that, and then yes, one very we talked about in the beginning. Today's generation is much more mature than I am, and some of them are pursuing these professional courses. Great, do sports management courses, learn from there, combine that with your passion. You got the ticket to success, right? So that's at the macro level. Given the current situation, yes, it's tough. It's not only tough for sports, event, media. It's tough for all industries, and it's tough for all the countries. It's not just India. So it's going to happen. But believe in the whole India story. It is going to bounce back. This is a break, like Sid, you rightly said. We will start. There are already some green shoots at the elite level, right? People have figured out how to conduct elite level events. Now it's not only sports. As other events start happening, more and more jobs get created. yes, the way of working will evolve, which is great. I mean, technology has always been an enabler. So this is a pause which is allowing us to use technology in different ways that we may not have envisaged before. That in turn will create more jobs. And one of the things that you have to always remember in sports, it's like any other business. While the action is happening on the ground, there's so much more happening behind. So whether you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, you are a psychologist, there are jobs, there's opportunity, or you want to do your own startups. Today is the right time. You are born in the right India, where failure is no longer a bad word. So my message to the aspiring sports management professionals is, you are there at the right time. Don't be too disheartened if you're one of those unfortunate ones who just graduated. I know so many, including my own son, just graduated, and finding a job is tough. We know that. But believe me, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, you will laugh about this challenge, because you will have more challenges and more fulfilling challenges in life. So just be at it.
Excellent. And just to talk about one last point on the same career aspect, do you think the Indian sports is going to look at a shift than full-time jobs and a secure job to a consulting jobs and doing multiple gigs?
Sid, actually, that's already happened, and I think that is something that is going to remain for a while, because of the way our ecosystem is. Now, let's say 10, 15 years down the road, if things are stable in terms of the ecosystem is mature, you'll have many permanent positions. But in today's environment, this is what it is. We are in a gig economy, and we all have gone through this and are going through this, where we are wearing multiple hats. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's how you are. If you have the skill, and you are able to market your skills, there is demand for it. So I think people have to, and again, for the younger generation, maybe it's an easier transition into this kind of a role, because they've kind of they've grown up seeing this. For somebody in my generation, it's a little bit more difficult, because we haven't traditionally thought about this. But in sports, it's something that is a reality. And if one gets to work, let's say in an IPL or in an ISL, and if it's a 6-month or a seasonal kind of a role, I would urge, take it, because what you will learn, like what I learned by spending a month in Ladakh is priceless. And what you will learn in 6 months in an IPL, knowing that after 6 months you may again have to look for a gig, my advice is, do it.
I think that is a very important message, Ashish. And honestly speaking, our generation, or what we are in, I think we have understood the consulting is the way forward. But we also come back with some 18, 20, 25 years of experience, where the consulting is, we become consultants also taken seriously. But the current generation is really tough, because believe me, people coming into sports management courses, they are either supported from home, or they have completely fought against their parents. And now is the time when parents are asking them questions. Have you taken the right decision? You are asking you to do traditional MBA, you're asking you to do the marketing and get a banking job, and now you fought with us. And so there's a different challenge happening to those kids. And that's where I think your answer is pretty good about what you mentioned about the mindset and learning on the job. Like, even if you join a full-time job and you don't get to learn, it's useless. There is nothing called joining a post or joining a post office or a bank nowadays. It's about getting those 4 events in a year with doing internships. You get the experience that you can get is phenomenal. And it's good that we echo the same sentiments. And this is something that is really required for the generation who is really confused with the situation.
Sure. I mean, we all are. So I don't blame them. But there's going to be opportunity out of every challenge and chaos. So it will come.
Yes, exactly. And I just want to end with what Sharat Kamal always said to me. That said, our parents are so short-sighted. They give 18, 20 years for their kids to become engineers, but they want 2 years for them to become champions.
Yes, correct. So relevant. And applies to all walks of life. I have young kids who tell me how to become a CEO. So happy to share, but you do understand that cannot be your short-term goal. Because of course you can start your own startup, nothing stops you, but go through the grind, right?
Great. Amazing, Ashish. And I'm going to catch up with you again on the participatory sports, specifically focusing on the runs and and other community building things. But for
Sure.
now, I think this is wonderful getting your 35, 40 minutes of your time and talking about it. Really appreciate your time and thank you and looking forward to see you soon.
Thank you very much, Sid. The pleasure's been mine, and look forward to talking with you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching, thank you for liking, and thank you for sharing. But please do subscribe on our channel Sportsy Says and help us spread the word about Sportsy. Let's talk sports. Please follow Sportsy Says on across all social media platforms and please do subscribe on Sportsy Says. Thank you.